Hi, and welcome to the Intuitive Insights podcast series. I'm Nina Lockwood, the founder and chief exec of Intuitive Talent Solutions. We work with leading transport organisations in the UK and bring them together with a diverse and talented candidate network for interim and permanent roles. The people who know me know that I like to immerse myself in good conversation. And over the course of the podcast series, I will be joined by some exceptionally talented leaders from the UK transport sector to talk about their careers, the industry, leadership, challenges and opportunities, and much more besides. I do hope that you'll join me and that you'll be inspired by my fabulous guests and their intuitive insights. Today, I'm joined by Sambit Banerjee, who is the Joint Chief Executive Officer at Siemens Mobility, UK and Ireland, and Managing Director, Rolling Stock and Customer Services. I thoroughly enjoyed hearing about Sambit's career journey to date, and also some of his leadership thoughts and comments too. I hope you're inspired. I hope you enjoy. Please do share it amongst your network. The more, the merrier. Sambit Banerjee, a very, very warm welcome to the Intuitive Insights podcast. I'm going to take a deep breath and read your job title out because it is, we've had some long ones recently, but you are definitely the winner at the minute. So Joint Chief Executive Officer for UK and Ireland and Managing Director for Rolling Stock and Customer Services at Siemens. You are very, very welcome to the podcast. I've been really looking forward to having this conversation.
Many thanks, Nina, and thanks for this opportunity to have a chat with you. Really looking forward to it, and thanks for the lovely introduction.
No, you're very welcome. So in time-honoured tradition, and we've been doing these podcasts for 3 years now, and what we know the audience really appreciates is to hear interesting career stories. And I know that you're going to share an interesting story with us today. I'd like you to go right back to the beginning. I'm interested to know where you've been, what you've done, and what took you there in the first place, right up to present day, and what does a week in the life of a joint chief exec and MD at Siemens look like? Over to you.
Thanks, Nina. So, if I go to the very beginning, I was born in the wonderful city of Calcutta in the far east of India. The city is also very well known as the city of joy. That's where I did my education, and I'm a chartered accountant by profession. I was trained with PricewaterhouseCoopers in Calcutta. And soon after passing the exam, I started dropping my CV in some of the big companies, including Siemens. And the question is, why Siemens? For no other reason, because Siemens was the fourth building from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in Calcutta. So I passed that building so many times that it stuck in my head. This is one company. About 4 5 months later and 3 interviews later, I joined Siemens in Calcutta in 1992 in the finance area because I'm an accountant by profession. I joined a and medium voltage switchboard factory in Calcutta. And then it has been a long journey from there on. I worked in Calcutta up to 1996, and then I was sent for 18 months to Germany on a very special training in the headquarters in Munich in corporate finance. I came back and then I worked in Mumbai from 1997 till 2001 in the Siemens Limited India headquarters in different roles. I was head of management accounting, financial accounting, and finally I was the head of management and corporate accounting for Siemens Limited in India. In 2001, I left Siemens. And that surprised a lot because they always felt I'm a homegrown talent. I joined straight from the institute, but I wanted to become a CFO. And I knew if I want to be a CFO in India, there are two things that you need, two feathers in your cap. One is to work in the area of treasury, and the second was to work on mergers and acquisitions. Yeah. So So I worked with a very famous media company in India for 4 years. First 2 years as their vice president, Times of India Group in Mumbai. And the second 2 years, they had a joint venture with BBC Worldwide in UK for their magazine business. And I became the CFO of that joint venture, 50-50 joint venture between BBC Worldwide and Times of India Group in out of Mumbai. But all this time, when I was outside of Siemens, I was in very good connection with my colleagues in Siemens, particularly with my colleagues in Munich. And at some point, they said, come back. You have had your stint. You need to come back to
Yeah.
Siemens. And they persuaded me in joining back, this time directly in the headquarters in Germany, in Munich, corporate finance, looking after quite a few countries globally. And that's how I came back to Siemens in 2005. And I worked 2005 and 6. And then on the back end of 2006, I came to UK on a delegation for 3 years only. And here, after 17 years, I'm still here. I worked in the IT part of the business, Siemens Business Services, from 2006 to 2010. And then after that was sold off to Atos, I moved as the finance director of airports and postal area of the business, the logistics side of it. And 2nd of January 2013, I moved as the finance director of rolling stock and customer services, which I did till 2019. And then in 2019, I was promoted as the managing director of that business. And 1st of August 2023, I was promoted as the joint CEO of Siemens Mobility. So that's a very quick rundown of my career, Nina. Well,
Yeah, it is, and I'm really interested to know um the difference. I imagine the difference in culture between working in Calcutta and then going to Germany was quite significant. How did that feel when you landed in Munich? And and as I say, I'm making a sweeping assumption here, but I kind of feel like the culture's going to be quite different. How was it, and how did you deal with that? How did you acclimatize?
so I start with where you finished. I arrived in Munich. I still remember 31st of March on 1996, and it was snowing in Munich. And I was born and brought up in one of the most tropical parts of the world. They are very dry, very humid, very warm,
Yeah,
and even with few layers and a full jacket, I was shivering. I couldn't take that cold.
no,
The first few months was really really tough, because your body, your skin is trying to getting adjusted to extreme condition which you have never experienced in life. So that was interesting. It was good fun. Never experienced snow prior to that, so
right,
those were the kind of the fun elements. Culturally, totally different, totally different. But I think my upbringing helped me. My parents, my grandparents, brought me up in a very liberal. My family is extremely liberal and extremely international, so we have family members from all over the world, particularly in United States and United Kingdom. So we are quite used to multicultural, and Germany as well,
mm,
multicultural aspects. So that was not, I would say, difficult. It was different. And what I felt, as soon as I reached out to people, people also reached out to me. So it's a kind of reciprocation.
right.
And yeah, you learn about other cultures, you share your cultures with the colleagues. And I can say I met some lovely friends, and also my family when they came and joined me there in Munich, and those friendships remains forever.
Yeah,
So that was quite a interesting 18 months, Nina, as a trainee in Germany.
I'm sure. Even, and as you say, even just that very practical consideration around the weather. and kind of, getting off the plane and it being like nothing you've ever felt before. It's kind of a bit of a reversal of, when I go on holiday, it's we have this feeling of when you walk out the plane and that heat hits you, and it's just love it. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favourite feelings. There's sunshine now, and of course you'd be used to that, but not used to the snow in Munich. Um,
And the reverse is, now when I complain about heat, my family continuously reminds me, Sambit, don't forget from where you came. Now you're living.
And so that coming over to the UK then on a 3 year delegation, but still being here, what was it, 17 years later?
Yeah.
So clearly you're enjoying it. And that kind of what is it about I guess about Siemens as an organization that has meant that you've been so loyal to them, even though kind of going away but then coming back again, so loyal to them and staying in the UK too. What's the decision around that?
Um, if I start with Siemens, I felt it's a very fair company. It's a place where you can prosper, grow. You can travel the world. I have traveled around the globe, Australia business, but all due to Siemens. Met so many colleagues, across the globe. That because when you work for Siemens, actually you're not working for a company, you're working for a conglomerate. There are so
Mm,
many companies within this company.
yeah.
And I would urge all people who work for Siemens, I've always said to them, use it, use to your advantage, travel the world, pick up the bags when your family is still young and you are able to travel. Go and settle in some other place for 2, 3, 4 years. And that really opens up the mind, the horizon. Then from a local player, you become an international citizen. Then you don't look at
Mm,
people with any backgrounds. You don't people look at people from India as coming from India. You are looking at them as talents. You're looking at people from United Kingdom the same way as from Australia or Canada.
mm,
And that's a huge benefit because those barriers in the mind about geography completely got taken away
right.
in that. And secondly, I felt I was growing with the company. The company was giving me the opportunity, and I really loved and enjoyed that those challenges that were thrown at me. I also, over a period of time, got attached to the people, and that also make it very nice. So I would like to work with people who carry similar values and trying to grow and develop the business. So that's really what I feel is the strength of Siemens. And if someone like me coming from completely different part of the world could come and work in UK, I think the credit goes to the people in UK. They welcomed me with open arms, very warm.
Mm,
So one of my first MDs, senior MDs, I worked with Clark McFarlane, later on with Steve Scrimshaw. They were extremely, extremely warm, and you know, I put their arms around me so that I can settle down and work well here in UK. And then I started loving the place. I started loving the people, and I stayed on. That romance still goes on.
yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm delighted to hear it. I think it would be really remiss of me to miss to kind of not grab hold of this opportunity to ask you for in terms of people becoming an international citizen rather than a local one. And I love the way that you've described that. It makes perfect sense to me. People, if people are going to go and work in a completely different area in a different country, and there is obviously this huge amount of transport programs going on globally. What would be, have you got kind of a top tip, Sambit, in terms of how, when people arrive at the new place, how do they make sure that people, that they kind of, I guess, that their arms are open as much as the people that they're going to be working with? What would be, bearing in mind all of the moving around that you've done and the different places you've worked and cultures you've been in, what would be a top tip from you?
People love you for what you are. So don't try to change suddenly if you go to a country. I never tried to change when I came to England. I was what I am. And
Mm.
people then start looking at you as, I mean, are you reaching out to them as they are trying to reach out to you? Top tip is, are you respecting the values and culture of that country that you've been to? Once you do that, your acceptance level goes up immediately quite a few
Mm.
notches. My experience is, and this is not, I would not say 99%, 100%. I have seen across the globe in Siemens, within Siemens colleagues, people respect and value your culture. They're very keen and eager to know, what's your culture, which part of India I come from, what is my main festival, what do I do, what kind of food I like. And then is the exchange of thoughts and ideas and minds, when, and that then result in a lovely working relationship, camaraderie, friendship, that even
Mm.
after you finish the stint, it stays on for a
Yeah,
longer period of time.
yeah, perfect. Thank you. Um, another question has popped in my head, so I hope you don't mind me just taking the opportunity to throw this one in as well. One of the things that has come up frequently on the podcast is this concept of imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
And I know lots and lots of female colleagues who would say quite openly that we suffer with imposter syndrome. Kind of, I'm going to get found out any minute. What am I doing here? Who am I to be in this job, etc. And then it was actually Amit Chandarana who brought it into his podcast conversation with me, where he said that he had that similar kind of feeling as well. You strike me as somebody who's very, very comfortable and confident in your own skin. Has that always been the case, or have you had a touch of the imposter syndrome at any point?
It's a very good question, and I really like this. There are odd occasions when that crept through my mind, if I'm brutally honest with you. I mean, it's not never ever, but most of the time, I always try to um, give myself the confidence that whatever journey I have walked is what is on my own merits, on my own strength, what people saw in me as a human being, as a colleague, as a friend, as a professional. So let's not try to put anything of a cover on top of it, so that I have to do this differently.
Mm,
And it worked well, actually. But there are a few times when you feel that, yeah, do you need to do this differently? I won't disagree with that.
yeah, I do. For me personally, the older I become, the less I have that challenge. But certainly, earlier on in my career, there was lots of those occasions when it's kind of like, they're going to find out in a minute that I really don't know what I'm talking about. And now I still don't know what I'm talking about, but less people are aware of it, I guess.
my my biggest moment, and I let me share it with you. So during the when I was with Times of India, we did this deal with a 50-50 joint venture with BBC. I had lots of meetings with the CEO and the CFO, Peter Fiffin and Kevin Langford. And then after the joint venture, my boss in Times said, "You need to go to London to meet Kevin because he proposed your name as the CFO." And I was really shocked. I couldn't believe my eyes, ears. I said, "Are you sure?" I asked. He said, "Yeah, please get a ticket. Go, you know, patch up with him, and there would be a few meetings in London for you." So the first thing I asked Kevin when I met him, I said, "Kevin, why me?" And that's, you can see the doubt in me. I mean, am I the right guy for this job? I
Yeah.
mean, are you sure you want to take me? And he said something to me which I would remember forever in my life. He said, "Sambit, do you remember during the negotiations, one of the days we negotiated through the night?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he said, "I said to Peter, look, this man, if it's not screwing it up for Times, he will not screw it up for BBC."
Yes. Yes. Brilliant. Love it. Thank you for sharing that story. I love it. And there's those pivotal moments, aren't there, when you kind of, by being yourself and staying true to your own personal values, people can see that in everything that you do. And I know it can feel like it's an overused word, but that being authentically you means that it's not difficult because you're not trying to be something you're not. As you've said,
Exactly.
people love you for who you are, and you're not going to be right for everybody. And that, I think, is a learning as well as you go through your career, that not everybody is going to respond positively. Not everybody's going to love you, but the majority of people will. And that's what we focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. So agree with you. So very agree with you.
Yeah. So tell me, what a week in the life of a joint chief exec and an MD of Rolling Stock and Customer Service. What's the day job now, Sambit? What are you involved in, and what kind of keeps you interested and motivated in this role?
Um, First of all, I want to say this to everybody who is listening to the podcast. I feel deeply humbled that I've been given this opportunity. This is the highest job in this country, and together with Rob, I'm doing this as a joint chief exec. I accept that this job with a lot of humility and a responsibility, and that's where I will start every day in the morning. When I get up, I look at two things: all the fleet availability emails that comes from all across the country to see
Right.
that the fleets are in order, they can be in service. And second, all the health and safety alerts that comes through in my. So I just want to be absolutely sure that overnight nobody is injured, nothing has happened that I need to pay attention to. So that's the start of the day. For the mostly I'm doing meetings. Yeah. So
Mm.
what are the areas that we focus on? On one side, we focus on strategy. That's entirely up to the CEOs to lead and drive the business.
Mm.
Second topic that we focus on is what we call, and it's a part of the strategy, but I want to bring it up, is sustainability. That how we are moving the company to achieve those targets for sustainability, which are Siemens internal targets, also
Mm.
targets as given by the government of United Kingdom to reach that zero net carbon zero target. Third, obviously, a lot of my time goes in talking to the customer CEOs and COOs, talking to them about
Right.
their issues, the challenges they're facing, we are facing, trying to find resolution together. Also, trying to find opinions that we can present together as an industry to the government. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is what we call government affairs. So, talking to DFT, talking to Network Rail, talking to industry bodies and groups, that consumes quite a bit of my time. And then, of course, day-to-day operations, operational reviews, and performance management takes a lot of time. People management,
Mm.
people and culture boards is very, very important to me, and that takes a lot of time. But the underlying base thing, which is very important for me, is safety
Yeah.
in the workplace, because we are in a high risk business. We work with moving objects, which are trains. We have electrical, mechanical, you name it, complexity in our depots
Mm.
and on the track. And one of our responsibilities is to continuously reiterate our health and safety messages and work on developing health and safety strategies that keep our people safe.
Mm.
So that's roughly what keeps me busy throughout the day.
There's a lot in there. That is going to keep you busy. That's a big list. I'm curious to know. We've supported a number of clients with health and safety roles over the last few years, and we've noticed a shift, Sambit, in terms of what that role actually looks like. And if we, it's a kind of very to opposite ends of the spectrum, but going from, I remember one client describing it to me as, we don't want a clipboard warrior. We don't want someone who's going to walk round and say, have you got your helmet on? Have you got your high vis on? Have you got your toe cap boots on, etc., and ticking a box? It's become much more behavioural in terms of how we approach safety. And safety isn't something you do at the end of the day when you've done everything else. It's what we do all the time. Is that something that you can recognise? Have you seen that shift, or were you already there in terms of that behavioural approach to it?
It's a journey, and I see that very much. And you see where at least we are trying to take. We're saying health and safety colleagues are there to give the governance, the guidance. They are there on site to make you aware of things maybe under work pressure you are missing,
Mm,
but they cannot ensure safety on the shop floor.
no.
The colleagues can. So it starts with the beginning of the day. Are you safe to work? Have you been well briefed? Have you followed, the right? Are you following the right processes?
Mm,
And then, if you see anything unsafe, immediately stop work and report, and then find the right resolution before you go ahead.
mm,
It's also about I would use a word which is called the safety culture.
yeah.
So there was, when I joined, there was this tremendous urge to release a train into the service. And I said that, look, that's important, absolutely important, but not at the cost of compromising on safety.
Yeah.
We need to be that much alert that we are not driving those wrong behaviors. We do cultural workshops in the depots. We have a talk to me program in the depots where people can pretty much to me say what they feel are not happening well or happening well, both ways. And that created the culture of ownership within the people who are working there.
Mm,
There's one other topic which I've really pushed on from the time I took over from 2019 is the topic of well-being, Nina.
yeah.
Well-being of people is so important and is related to safety. And it could be mental well-being, physical well-being. So we are doing throughout the year a lot of programs whereby we give this assistance of mental, physical well-being to the colleagues about diet, about sleeping patterns, about lifestyle, about exercise, and
Mm,
that has really been very well picked up by the fleet heads in the depots. Sometimes I know in some depots they do yogas, which is so good,
right.
and
Yeah.
likewise. So yes, it's a behavioral journey, it's a cultural journey, it's a journey. We are better
Mm,
off than where we were, say 3-4 years back, and we have a lot of mile to cover this year and the next years as well.
yes. It is, as you said, and that I think it sums it up really well, is that it is a journey and it isn't, I don't think there's ever a destination. I don't think we ever can say, right, we're here now, stick your flag in the ground, we've made it, because it's constantly evolving.
Yeah,
But what is really wonderful to hear is that people are really kind of responding well and responding positively to these programs that you're doing. And I know, so as we're recording this today on the 6th of November, the Rail Wellbeing Live is happening
yeah,
this week. And there's some brilliant contributions to that from people across the industry, looking at different ways that we can look after ourselves better.
absolutely.
And I think that the take up of this and the response to these kind of programs is getting better and more people understanding the need for it, rather than perhaps the culture that we might have come from, which is, because let's face it, we're still a very male dominated industry, and there is well, boys don't cry, men don't talk to each other in the same way that females do. You know, there's a habit of not sharing, and therefore mental health issues coming as a result. So there's some brilliant stuff happening, which is really encouraging, and to hear from you that your team are embracing this as well.
May I add a story here because it's important that,
Mm,
and this story is about caring. So I observed someone 4 years back who I worked very closely with, not in his own self. So I called his manager and said, "Can you have a chat with him?" And he said, "Sambit, after the chat, he's fine." After 3, 4 weeks, I went back to his manager and said, "Look, I don't think he's fine. Would you mind taking him out for a pint, or just have a chat?" That was a Friday. On Monday, his manager called me, said, "I urgently need a meeting with you." And I said, "Yeah, by all means, yes." And he came to me and said, "You were right. He's in deep depression." I said, "I told you. We
Mm.
have to keep an eye for each other because
Yeah,
we know each other well in work. We have seen each other for many years. So that is the duty of care I'm requesting across the industry. Please just don't leave it to this standard mail reply, "I'm okay" or "I'm
yeah,
fine."
yeah. Yeah, it's such a good point. And I think to come back to the point you made earlier, in a kind of in the sense of physical safety, then if it's not right, if something's not right, you stop. And yes, we know we've got deadlines to meet for that train to be ready to go to the client on a particular day, and all of the dependencies that are in place. But if it's not right, you stop. And it's the same with mental health, isn't it? And that kind of
Exactly.
you if you spot it, there could be a tendency to be, well, we're really busy, I haven't got time. Is it none of my business? Is that person going to think I'm being nosy, I'm poking my nose in, etc.? Just ask. Yeah,
Yeah,
just ask, because we
absolutely.
need to do that. We need to do it. I think we might be kind of, as we move into the second part of the conversation, I think we might have already covered some stuff that might fall into this question, but I'm not going to preempt that. I'm going to get my magic wand out, Sambit, and I'm going to say to you, I'm going to grant you 3 wishes for the change, the transformation that you would like to see in the UK transport industry as we move forward into the future. Take the limits off. Let's not think about, well, yeah, but that couldn't happen, because if you had no limits and it was a real magic wand scenario, what would you like to see happen? What are your 3 wishes?
The first one is certainty. We would like to see certainty in the rail area, and that is about decision making, about policies. There is a lot that we can achieve if we know and can plan for ourselves in the industry, and that certainty is missing. I think this is something really we need. The second is we need uh, quick decision making, because sometimes we feel the decisions are taking too long at times, sometimes prolonged, sometimes I think everybody is a little nervous to take a decision. So
Mm,
decision making, even if the answer to that decision is a no, then at least we can move on without wasting our money and energy on things which may not have the right outcome.
mm,
And the third thing I really want is very agile financing models and ways to work, because I don't think we are using that. We are one of the countries where financiers would love to invest. Our rating is very, very high, but we are not coming out with creative financing
mm.
models to find solutions for the industry on the one side and for the government on the other side. So those would be my three major wishes,
Yeah,
on this topic.
I think there would be a lot of people voting for those 3 wishes, Sambit. I think they would resonate with most colleagues in the industry. Have you, really interesting in relation to this, we're not coming up with the creative financial models. Have you got a view on why that is? Why are we not doing?
I think we are looking at very short term and sometimes very siloed approach that is preventing us from thinking a little bit more like entrepreneurial or more
Yeah,
broad based. And yes, we had in the past sometimes some issues whereby it took a longer time to agree on some of the financing models, and that's why I said decision making is important. So once the
mm,
models come up, we can take a quick decision: what's good, what's the right thing, where the taxpayers money can be best spent, or how it can be best spent. I think there's a lot of opportunity there which we are missing out on.
Yeah, huge. I agree with you. And there's obviously, as we speak, a large programme of work just been kiboshed a couple of weeks ago in terms of the high speed 2 from Manchester or from Birmingham further up to Manchester. And just think, good heavens, if decisions had been made differently, if financial model had been looked at differently, it's if loads of ifs. But yes, a whole Pandora's box to open there. We haven't got time for that, obviously. I'm going to move to my final question for today, which is in terms of where you get your own personal motivation and inspiration from. If I mention your name to anybody, the first reaction that I will get is what a lovely person you are, what a warm person, an approachable person, but overall, what a positive person. So I'm very positive too, but I'm not positive every day, all day. And there's things that you do to kind of plug yourself back in and recharge and kind of get that energy back again. What do you do, Sambit? Where do you get your inspiration from?
Uh, that's a very, very lovely question. It comes from my family. My family keeps me very grounded. My wife, my two children, they always when I'm a little bit low, they always try to give me perspectives
Right.
that how to keep myself focused and stay motivated. And I think that has been really the main reason how I keep myself motivated, because I think, as you know, we have sometimes very tough days when at the end of the day you just feel, very tired. Then you need that support from the family to keep you going, and that's definitely one thing. The other thing is I have always worked with people who are far better, smarter, and better than me,
Yeah.
and hence I could rely on them a lot.
Mm.
They're really good. My team is really good. Many of them have been working with me for a long time,
Yeah.
and I've been really privileged to have that, so that in the area of work, we as a team could achieve a lot.
Yeah. And that matters, doesn't it? That kind of spreading the load.
Yeah.
So spreading the load, I think when you get home at night and your family's there, and actually then your husband or your dad, and you're not joint chief exec and MD, you become the person again.
Yes. Yes.
But also being able to be that person when you're at work as well with a team that you know. You say, I think there is something so logical, makes complete common sense that the people you work with, the people you have in your team, would be better than you at
Yeah.
something. Because what would be the point of us all being good at something?
Exactly.
And I'm massively privileged. I've got a team just like that, where we all bring something different to the party, and it just means that you can spread the load, and
Yeah,
everybody's got a part to play.
absolutely.
Um, Thank you so much for joining me on the Intuitive Insights podcast today. I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing about your career. Thank you for sharing advice for us in terms of people's careers and your thoughts as well around safety in the industry, because it's absolutely critical. We've got a brilliant reputation as a country, haven't we, in terms of our safety
Yeah.
record. So keeping
Yeah.
hold of that is critical. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me. And let's make sure that we continue the conversation and we don't leave it quite so long next time.
Absolutely. And many thanks, Nina, for giving me the time to share a little bit of my journey. I really enjoyed this session and enjoyed talking to you. And as you said, look forward to talking to you very soon. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you. My huge thanks to Sambit for taking the time to join me on this episode of the Intuitive Insights podcast. We would really appreciate your support by liking and sharing and subscribing to our link. And a huge thank you to everyone who has supported us over the last 50-something episodes. We appreciate it very much. Have a good day.